Good morning, everyone. First and foremost, it's Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, a happy holiday with family and friends. Everybody be safe out there. This video is going to be kind of I'll say boring because it's mainly cleanup. I'll be picking up sticks and raking a little bit. I want to kind of keep up with that portion of it so that when I get done I can just either till this thing or bring soil in or something. But I get a lot of these sticks up that won't mulch up with my with the brute. Most of it mulches up good, but some of this stuff just doesn't. So the reason I'm speaking is I had a couple suggestions from viewers that said, why don't you talk to us some? And someone suggesting I may have some good stories. Well, I've never had a problem talking, as my wife will attest to. I love to talk. I love to talk to people, and I love to tell stories. So I'll share a couple stories. Some may pertain to this type of work, and some just kind of human interest stories, if you will. Let me start by saying that the reason I'm doing this type of work is very simple. It's just a way of giving back. My wife and I have been blessed in our retirement, and we're at a position where we can give back. We've gotten help along the way. We've been married nearly 50 years, and we're in a position now in our retirement where we're comfortable, secure, and we can give back. Number one. Number two, I love this type of work. I love being in the outdoors. Look, it takes me longer to do things now. Obviously, I'm 70 years old, but I feel great. I feel terrific. I've been physically, I'm fine. Mentally, well, you'd have to ask my wife about that. So that's one of the reasons I do it. I like to stay busy. I get bored easy, and I like to stay busy, and it's a way to help people out. So, I get a lot of comments about, why don't you get a big machine and get a skid steer in there or a backhoe or, stuff like that. And I could do all that. If I wanted to go rent the equipment, I could do it. But I don't really care to do that. I like doing this stuff by hand, old school, if you will. I'm actually kind of surprised I even bought that brush hog, but it works good for this job. And I got a couple other makeovers lined up where I can use it, so that's good. But I enjoy doing it. I work at my own pace. I would prefer not to have other people around me because, I want to be safe myself, but I want other people around to be safe too. So, a way to keep them safe is to keep them away from the work area, if you will. My wife has often asked me, somebody suggested to my wife, why don't you go out and help them? My wife would be here in a New York minute had I asked her to do it. But number one, she's got some physical ailments that she really, she could do this type of work, but it would hurt her more. So, plus she's busy at home here. She has her own things that she does, and she stays busy. So that's why I've had offers of people to want to help out and all that, but I prefer to do it myself. I really do. I like working alone. I'll put on a headset and listen to some music, or just, stay out here and work alone and work at my own pace. Now, I don't do this every single day for 8 hours a day. The family is in no rush, obviously. It's been this way for some time. So, we're not trying to rush through this thing. I'm in no hurry. They're in no hurry. I may come over here and work 2, 3, 4 hours at a time, and then I may not come back for another day or two, or sometimes 3, depending on the weather. So I work at my own pace. I take my time. I rest in between. I eat good, obviously. So anyway, I'm enjoying it. Rest assured, I'm doing fine. If I thought that it was hurting me, or if I thought that I was gonna stroke out or something like that, I would stop immediately. But I'm in. Other than being a little bit overweight, I'm physical health. I'm fine. So, let's talk about my wife and I. We've been married nearly 50 years. my wife and I literally knew each other for 2.5 weeks before we got engaged. Knew each other for 2.5 weeks before we got engaged. She lived less than a mile from me, and we never knew each other. She went to a different school than I did. She went to a Catholic school, and I went to the public school. We never knew each other, and we knew each other for 2.5 weeks. We met. I probably asked her to go out with me the first day or two that I met her, 6, 8 times, and she kept putting me off, and she thought that I was dating someone else, which I wasn't. And she finally agreed to go out with me, and we got engaged 2.5 weeks later. Of course, all our friends thought, oh boy, she's pregnant. Well, 2.5 years later, we had our first child, so she wasn't pregnant. We just, one of those love at first sight things. We've had our bumps along the way, but right now she's the best friend I have. It's her and I and our dog, and we just we enjoy each other's company, and we do everything we can together. So that's my wife. She's been supportive all the years in while we were in the military, which were many, and she's always worked off schedule from me so that our kids wouldn't have to be put in daycare all the time. We have 2 children. So she's been the consummate military wife, and believe me, she's as much a part, if not more, of the military than I was. And if you go back and watch one of my videos, my retirement video that I posted some time ago, you'll see that when she came up to get her spousal awards, she got a standing ovation, which just brought a tear to my eye. So anyway, that's my wife. I love her, and she's supportive, and I couldn't do this stuff without her. All right, that's out of the way. Now, for, I guess, a human interest story, how I was brought up. I was raised by parents that were morally, I guess, good moral values, I should say. They brought us up, my brother and sister and I, to do the right things always. I haven't always done the right things, but that's what we were taught. We were taught to respect others, to respect property, things like that. So, anyway, they were tough, but they were good to us. They gave us everything we needed, and they gave us some things that we wanted. Certainly not everything, but some. My mother went from being a high school graduate to the vice president of a savings bank, rest her soul. So she was a hard worker. And my mother didn't play games. I'll tell you a couple quick stories. Number one, we sat down at a dinner table one night, and my mother bear in mind, she worked all day at the bank, came home, cooked dinner, and we sat down at the kitchen table, and she brought the dinner out and put it in front of us, and I looked at it, and I made the mistake of telling my mother, I said, well, I don't really like this. And she said, well, that's no problem. You don't have to eat that. And I said, oh, good. So she came and she got my plate, and she took it and brought it into the pantry. She came back out and sat down. And I said, well, where's my dinner? She goes, you didn't want it, so you have to wait till breakfast. And that was that. So I waited till breakfast, and I learned my lesson quickly right there. That, when mother puts food in front of you, you eat it, whether you like it or not. She was tough. Another tough story about my mother was I was kind of at 12 and 13 years old, I wasn't a little punk. I had to have all my clothes just right and everything, one of those guys. One morning I got up to get ready to go to junior high school, I think 7th grade. And I got a pair of pants that she had ironed, and I looked at them, and I made the mistake of telling her, Mom, you didn't iron these the right way. Of course, back then we had the iron pants, and permanent press didn't exist. Well, let's just say I got a lesson very quickly on using the washing machine, the dryer, and the ironing board. She took me down to the basement, showed me the washing machine. Here's what you do. You put the soap in. You set it here. You put it here. You turn it on. When it's done, you go over here to the dryer. You set it here, turn it on. And then when you're done, you put some water in the iron and set up the ironing board, and then you iron. She said, there, now you can take care of your own clothes. And from that day on, I took care of my own clothes, thanks to my mother. So anyway, she was tough, but she was good. I loved her. My mother, another story, my mother, when we got engaged, and we didn't announce it to anyone right that day, we actually announced it to our parents, my parents, excuse me, when my sister and brother-in-law were having their little wedding party. They got married a year before we did, and they had a little wedding party at the house after the wedding. And after things kind of calmed down, my wife and I stood in front of my mother and said, "Hey, she said, she goes, oh God, all I need now is for you to tell me you're getting married." And I said, "Well, Mom, we're engaged, we're getting married." And she looked at my wife and she said, "I hope you know what you're getting into, young lady." So anyway, that was Mom. Mom and Dad were good to us. They were hard, but they were good to us. So we had a good life. Anyway, getting back to the video here and this work, this has been a mess. The briars are tough. I've been picking my hands like crazy with this stuff, even using thick gloves. And I don't know what it is, but these briars, they festered up, and I have to come home and lance them and everything else. But that's okay. I'm not going to stop doing it. This portion of the backyard that you see in this video, where the barn is the left side of the house, obviously. The right side, I did a walkthrough and tried to video as much as I could. I'll put that up soon and show you what it's like back there. But it's not all that bad, except for a lot of limbs and trees need to be limbed up, and dead limbs and stuff like that. So I'll go through and pull that stuff out and get it cleaned up. As far as the brute, I've also been asked or told or it's been commented that it looks like it's too hard to use. Well, number one, I have two shoulders that were reconstructed and the muscle is pretty much gone, so it may appear that I'm hurting or struggling. I'm really not. I just have to use my arms differently than I used to. I kind of weeble wobble, as I said in one of my videos, but I got bad hips. But I mean, I can move around fine. I walk every day. I walk my dog every day, and in the winter usually twice a day, and I stay busy, so I'm fine. But the brute is actually easy to use. It's not the type of job where you just put it on go and go through the rough. You have to go into it, back it up, go into it, back it up. Because of the briars, it gets caught up in these briars. These briars are like cables in there, so you have to be careful of those things. It won't just run through it and knock it all down. That's why I take my pole saw or the hedge trimmers and try to cut it up in pieces and knock it down on the ground and then mulch it up. I think when I get done, I'm going to try to rake this out as best I can and then see what it looks like, because there's a lot of vines still running through the ground. But I'll rake it as best I can, and leaving a lot of this mulch down there is a good thing. Put some nutrients back in there, and hopefully this soil will accept seed in the spring. And I'm considering bringing in some topsoil and seeding it, but that remains to be seen. We'll address that later. For right now, I just want to get it cleaned up and organized and get the junk out of there, and give them a yard back. They've got a back deck that you'll see in a video that's kind of in disrepair. I told the daughter that I'd look at that, and if he wants to buy the wood and everything, I can. It's certainly something I can do. So anyway, this is why I'm talking more now. People suggested they wanted to hear me talk a little bit, and I figured this would be a good video since it is somewhat boring, just running the machine over the stuff and mulching it up. But I want to thank everybody for your faithful support and following. Certainly appreciate it. It's a great platform. I like this YouTube. I never realized that so many people would be watching these things. But if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything. It just keeps us going to make more video. Somebody suggested or mentioned that you make a lot of money on YouTube. Well, you don't make a lot of money unless you're, these guys that have millions of viewers. Whatever money I make goes right back into what I'm doing. In other words, I bought that machine right there. So, I didn't make enough to pay for it all, but what I make goes into it. So I'm not getting rich. We're blessed in our retirement. So anyway, I just want to thank all of you so very much. Hit that like button, subscribe, share the video with your friends, and let's get this thing up to 100,000 viewers maybe, or subscribers. But anyway, thank you, folks. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.